হ্যালো। আম সবাই কি আমাকে শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? আবু জাফর ভাই and সন্দীপন?
হ্যাঁ, শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
Okay, great. So welcome everyone. এটা হচ্ছে আমাদের second session of the year, and today we have with us Abu Zafar Wahid bhai and Sandeepan Ghosh. এরা দুজন হচ্ছে our resident Salesforce architect, and they have been in the industry for quite a long time. So before I start going into their background, Prothome, I want to start off by saying that the idea of this session around Salesforce and a career path started when Abu Zafar Bhai commented in the group about his expertise, and a lot of people were very interested in having a possible understanding of a career path in this field. And given that, and with a family and small children, Abu Zafar Bhai still volunteered that he would prepare some content and আমাদেরকে এই journey through তে নিয়ে যাবে and share with us his experience, his journeys, etc. And on top of that, এই জিনিসটা শোনার পরে, I kind of reached out to my friend who's also my childhood friend from 23 years ago, যখন আমরা ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং করছিলাম একসাথে, Sandeepan Ghosh, and she 10 years of experience in Salesforce, and he's achieved like 12x certifications as well. So with all of those experience, I thought, he could be a good addition, especially, given this is a Bengali community and Sandeepan is our Bengali brother as well. She তার background experience থেকে আমাদের সাথে কিছু তার experience share করতে interested হলো, and he wanted to join us as a guest as well. So usually I try to give introduction about the people and the guests, but I think it makes best sense if we hear it from their own words. So let's start with Abu Zafar Bhai. Can you introduce us about yourself to the team?
Hi everyone. Good morning. This session actually targeting for people who are actually don't know about Salesforce, and people also like curious about what is Salesforce, and maybe some people like, okay, fine, maybe their company they're looking for opportunities in Salesforce, dive into that technology. So the reason actually I'm trying to put myself in this position to drive our Bangladeshi community brothers and sisters who can get benefit, and who knows, maybe more opportunities will come for more great talented people. So me as a web developer, I have about 15 years of experience. Like 6 years plus I switched to Salesforce from no background. So I think you can consider me as a good example how can dive into Salesforce from a different technologies. So trust me, first 3-4 weeks I had a very tough time because the keywords and syntax are different, environments different, platform is different. So it would take me a very complicated situation to do some work, but I had some YouTube videos, some blogs, online blogs, and I purchased like 1 or 2 online courses, and that gave me a clear idea. And then overall I get into Salesforce, and I can say that I'm contributing to New York City's government's in a good way, and the sense of like, even I'm trying to hire people in my agencies, it's hard to get the right people in the right positions. So that's another reason. So you can consider me as like a full-time full stack web developer, software developer, and coming to the Salesforce, I'm a full stack CRM developer as well. So that's it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Abu Zafar Bhai. And Sandeepan, would you like to introduce yourself? I mean,
Sure.
it's a Bengali community, so feel free to choose your language of choice.
Bangla choose করব
Bangla best. Yeah. That's how we became good friends too.
Absolutely. So Saraf and I, we go long back. We started I think 2002 আমাদের কলেজ শুরু হয়, and তারপরে তো যে যার ক্যারিয়ার নিয়ে ব্যস্ত হয়ে যায়। 2012 সালে I got introduced to Salesforce, and I was self-taught. কারণটা একটু পরে বলছি আমি। আর আমার শিখতে একটু সময় লেগেছে কারণ I was from a different background, but 10 বছর এই টেকনোলজিতে থাকার মধ্যে অনেক challenges face করেছি, and every single challenge I come across, I try to find a solution, and you read a lot, and basically Salesforce যে forumটা আছে বা communityটা আছে, it's vast and it's beautiful. Salesforce has their own university. You can self train yourself. Trailhead আছে, you can learn as you go, and tasks থাকে, projects থাকে যেগুলো, and that's best part is free of cost. And if you get stuck somewhere, you always ask questions. So সেইভাবেই আমার শেখা Salesforce. And basically বলতে গেলে I grew up with Salesforce. 2012 সালে যখন শুরু করি, Salesforce was very basic. It was not really so big as it is today. তো যখন যখন Salesforce একটা করে নিউ রিলিজ বার করেছে, নিউ enhancements দিয়েছে, it was easy for me to go into that and just try to dig into it, what's going on and stuff like that, and then implement this in some of my projects. Challenges তো আসতেই থাকে, তো এইভাবেই শেখা। দেখতে দেখতে 10 বছর কেটে গেল, and মোটামুটি আমি বলতে পারি I would say intermediate. And every single day, in fact, this week coming, Salesforce release আসছে, যত দিন যাচ্ছে Salesforce release list তত বেড়ে যাচ্ছে, and it's really difficult to catch up with those lists. So I would say as you go, as you move on, you'll face new challenges. You read, you learn, and then you implement. That's how we go.
And one interesting thing to add, কারণ আমি যেহেতু সন্দীপন ঘোষকে personally চিনি, he's by the way, as a background, he's a mechanical engineer, and then পরে masters করেছে, but again, Sandeepan, if you can remind me, the masters টা কিসে ছিল? Was it on computer science or it's still mechanical?
আমি মেকানিক্যাল করি, মেকানিক্যালের পর আমার ইচ্ছে হলো যে আমি জাহাজে উঠবো, তো তারপরে আমি মারিন ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং করি। আমার 1.5 বছরের ট্রেনিং থাকে, পোস্ট গ্রাজুয়েট ডিপ্লোমা ইন মারিন ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং প্লাস প্রি-সি ট্রেনিং মিলিয়ে 1.5-2 বছর আমি ওখানে বেশ সময় কাটিয়েছি। তারপরে আমার it was difficult to get a job in the marine industry. As you know, like everywhere you go, they will ask you a bribe, they will ask you money to get into, and I was not the person who would pay money to get into the ship, because I spent so much money learning the master's or a postgraduate diploma course. So I thought যে টাকা যখন দিতে হবে, ওখানে না দিয়ে আমি আমেরিকায় এসে একটা মাস্টার্স ডিগ্রি করে নিই। So that's how I started. I came here, and then I figured out that এখানে মেকানিক্যালের জবস খুবই কম, স্পেশালি আমাদের মতন যারা who came as a student in a student visa. So তারপরে আমি টেকনোলজি শিখতে শুরু করি 2012 সালে শুরু করি,
So that is a good inspiration, কারণ আমাদের এই গ্রুপে there are a lot of members here. I think Abu Zafar Wahid can basically vet to that, because উনার কাছে অনেকে এই বিষয় নিয়ে কোয়েশ্চেন করে as well in the comments, right? এখানে অনেক মানুষ আছে যারা কিনা কম্পিউটার সায়েন্স ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড থেকে আসে না, but they are trying to launch a career in this technology and IT sector. So your example is the perfect fit here, কারণ you are from mechanical engineering background, yet you made it very successful within the IT world, and like you're doing very good as well, and Salesforce gave you that leap. So আমরা হয়তো বা এই বিষয় নিয়ে আরেকটু ডিটেইল আলাপে যাব, and we'll try to understand your experience in this journey.
Sure.
এবার
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Abu Zafar Bhai, related to yours, I mean, as far as I remember correctly, right? আপনি computer science background থেকেই আসছেন আর কি?
Right.
Okay.
So
and
yeah,
go ahead.
সো আমি ওইটা রিয়েলিটিটা অ্যাড করতে যাচ্ছি। আমি যখন বাংলাদেশে আমি ক্যারিয়ার শুরু করি ঢাকাতে, আমি অ্যাজ এ ওয়েব ডেভেলপার কাজ শুরু করি, এবং তখন আমি বিভিন্ন ওয়েব নিয়ে পার্টিসিপেট করতাম। আমাদের এই গ্রুপে একজন আছে হাসান ভাই, এনএসএফ হাসান তানভীর, এবং I think he was from a different background maybe, or I know like there are 50 to 70 Bangladeshi expert আছেন যারা different background, and I can tell you like they are 10 times better than any principal developers. So anybody like who wants to join development technologies, they just need one thing: logical understanding. They should know how the flow works, they should know how to read. That's the basic two things. You have to read, and you have to understand the flow logically. That's the basic. Doesn't matter what backgrounds you have. And you don't need, like in my US experience, nobody asked me about my educational certification, nothing. They asked okay, you can do it, show me, and if they're happy, they will be happy to onboard you, nothing else. And if you don't have any kind of, I'm sure like there are lots of agency, they're also helping like visa and other things. That is not my area to talk about. But if you are very qualified, if you know how to do this thing, is the right place. Technology is the right place.
Awesome. তো আমরা আর সময় নষ্ট না করে we will go into, yeah, I think both of you have joined together and created some slides that you want to take us through. আমরা ওখানে যাব, and before we start that, I have a request to all the audiences who are viewing live. One is, if you have any questions, put them on the chat comments there within the live show. তাহলে আমরা ওগুলো after the show we'll try to answer all your questions. Second হচ্ছে, if any of you want to come join live in this session to interact with our guest speakers, please comment in the chat, and one of our admins or I myself will try to reach out and give you the link on how to join this session. So আর দেরি না করে, Abu Zafar bhai, are you going to share the screen with your slides?
Yes, I'm going to share.
All right, okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, let me know whenever you can see my screen.
Yeah. So as you go through, I will go in the background, and when required, I'll come back. Both of you can remain on the screen.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I like to continue with this, English, just because of its international community. Some people may not understand Bangla properly. I'm sure like most of them understand Bangla. I'm actually from Bangla background, but let me continue the English. So today's topic is Salesforce. It's like CRM in a very short term. It's a customer relationship management platform, and in a technical way, it's a cloud-based system that actually provides software and service to create a relevant customer experience. And it's starting as like software as a service, like how you can add or extended some sub applications for the company. Now it actually grown as like platform as a service company. And overall, like the long journey, like 15 years of journey, Salesforce or plus, it actually continuously adding new features so that it can fulfill the requirements or demands of the current companies or the customers, like what kind of technologies they're looking for. It's not just like 10 years or 12 years ago reports or generating data or like some kind of email notification, but it also gives people the experience to create a custom business logic, and sometimes for portal it actually making more day by day. It's like modern web-based platform, so that people are more, happy with the interface with the customers and also like their business. So let me move on from the Salesforce. So why the Salesforce? There are so many stories about people who actually started careers in Salesforce. Not everybody has the what to say success stories like, okay, I started Salesforce and then I get in. Like not like this. Some of them have some very bitter experience, and I have collected some of these stories that can surprise you. Like one of them actually, if you see like here, one of the person saying from 2016, the person actually turned to 15 and lost his job and job, business, and everything, and he became homeless. And overall, like 70,000, and within 18 months, in this period, and then he started learning Salesforce, and after 18 months, he started like a double figure of what he earned, and then over the time he becomes successful, and no more his homeless career, no more his that's painful life. Nobody wants to be in this kind of situation. So he had a very strong determination and motivation that he can from nowhere he learned the Salesforce, because Salesforce has lots of resources, online resources, that classes and free tutorials that I'm sure a lot of other technologies they don't provide. So it's a good platform to start to learn and get in. And there are more things, like some people that saying like they just started, finished their bachelor, and then they're unemployed for a couple of months, 6 7 months, and then after graduation they got the job and introduced to Salesforce, and they get into involved with the trailblazer community, that you can communicate and contribute like what things, how to do this thing, and how to start my career. There are people like really help you and answer you, like how can you embrace this platform. And they will give you direction that you start from here and there. And this journey of Salesforce, nobody will feel like I don't find any resources. This is the right platform that anybody can switch into a new technologies. Okay, and there are more stories. I don't want to tell more because I have to cover more about how to do the admin, how to do the development, how to do the business administration, and more. So let's move on to the next slide. And please tell me if I go fast or slow. Please give me feedback. Thank you. So first thing first, everybody's curious. What's the money, right? So I don't want to make you very hyper, or I don't want to make you underestimate about this career platform. This is actually a platform that has good opportunities if you are determined, motivated to learn and contribute to this platform. Like you cannot just get certification and get a job. No, some people get a lot of certification, but ultimately, like whenever they join the job, and then they cannot do the practical job. So two things here: you have to learn from the technologies, the resources we have, and also like certification. It will help you. What is say a badge or something that actually a lots of company say is a requirements. So you have to have both certification and knowledge. It will help you, get into the job. And there are tons of different roles in the Salesforce. First of all, everybody knows Salesforce administrator. It's the salary range that you are saying. It could be like average starting salary. So it can be varies from state to state, from different companies to companies. So don't think like this is the right figure or something. It can be plus minus. There is another role, Salesforce developer. Now, more Salesforce is adding new releases. The admin has to know a lot of logical terms. Like it's a low-code platform, so the developers and the admin, there are a lot of gray areas. So developer, you think like most like code base and their logical base. That the admin needs some additional customization. So Salesforce development, you need some knowledges like what do you say, the apex, like object oriented programming knowledge, and some LWC framework or Aura framework that actually more like HTML, JavaScript, CSS. These are the important things to have. You can find any resources. These will be very important information for studying career as a Salesforce developer. Salesforce consultant, I think after my slide, I will transfer to Sandipan Bhai to talk about consultant and the architecture. This is more about like you need a be all-round performance. Salesforce architect, and this again goes to Shandipanda. It's more about you are designing the system. You have to know just not the Salesforce, but also like other integration platforms, APIs, and what technologies your companies need to, for example, Box, DocuSign, a lot of things. Okay, Salesforce designer. I think this job role is very limited. Mostly like Salesforce centric companies, they will give you the Salesforce designer. Like you can design the UI and other things. So this is nothing like a vast or major companies will look for Salesforce designer. But there are, if you really like keen on the designing, you can get into this thing. Service career, sales career, marketing careers, these are mostly like what is said the business user centric professions. Like there are people like companies that look for administration or like people like who can do this thing analysis, but also like they have the Salesforce platform. They want to have somebody who knows the Salesforce, who is actually familiar with the Salesforce platform, so that they can generate report or they can get into the business help. And the last one I'd like to talk about, a business analyst. This is like a common role for software development, web development technologies. The business analysts, if they have a software Salesforce platform, they should basic understanding about how the Salesforce actually works, what are the features, and how the security works, permission works. That actually help them to understand how to design, analysis, and work with the developers and the administrator. So basically, this is common roles in the Salesforce. Let's move on to the new slide. So as I said, you Salesforce administrator, developers, architect. These are the three key areas of the Salesforce platform. Administrator, like if you really like to help people, analysis, reporting. Also, like you have to make sure that the system actually working. There are release updates 3 times every year. You have to make sure the release updates actually working properly. Make sure that you are the QA. They are also testing everything properly, and you have to incorporate with your developers so that any new business logic implementation or customization you can understand and talk to each other. And the basic rule actually, you have to maintain the users their permissions, their roles, like what they can see, what they shouldn't see. And sometimes if the company has dev position, you have to incorporate with the dev position so that you know what are actually going in the production environment. Let's keep it short. A Salesforce developer, if you're really person like who likes to code, who likes logical, solving problem, finding the problem, troubleshooting, you are that person, Salesforce developer. Sometimes people say, okay, I learned the trailfed and I have the proper guidance, everything, so I can do the Salesforce developer. But please make sure that you are a person like who can create features, who can find problems, who can fix the problems, and who knows the coding, like object oriented programming. That's a must, whether you're from Java background, PHP background, C Sharp background, everything modern programming language is actually web object oriented programming. So I encourage everybody, like whenever jumping into development role, please clear understanding on the object oriented programming. And the frameworks Salesforce they are adding as for what is it, the modern web based platform. They have the Aura and the LWC frameworks. So you should have good understanding about HTML and JavaScript. JavaScript is must because they are mostly relying on the JavaScript and the HTML. So these two combination, the background object oriented programming with and also like the JavaScript, HTML, this will give you the best boost of your career as a Salesforce developer. Salesforce architect is like the top of the position. Uh, it's like combination of everything. He understands the system. He understands what things has to be implemented as API integration. Like if sometimes the Salesforce actually integrated to the third external services that you may talk to each other, he will decide like what is the best way to implement and how to do the design of the system, database design, everything. So that's how the Salesforce architecture that should be top of the position. Let's go back to the next slide. That actually most like about the business analyst, consultant career. Likewise, I briefly explained. Cybersecurity careers, that also like a very, I think, limited roles. Not every company is looking for very, micro, very specific, specialized position. But if you're like joining Salesforce or Google, they will look for somebody, Salesforce designer, cybersecurity careers, because they know what areas people they need. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So, likewise, I said about the admin, what you have to do as a day-to-day basis as a Salesforce admin. So, first of all, you should have a person like who has lots of patience, and your company's business professionals. If there is a new things, you have to educate them. You have to listen to them. Like what sometimes they are used to with the previous technologies, and Salesforce is a totally different platform. Sometimes because of the communication gap, they cannot use the system properly. So you have to make sure that you prepare proper knowledge transfer for the business user and make a session for your users so that they know how to use the system. Okay, you have to configure the backend of the Salesforce database, like you have the SQL, right? Here is called object. It's like you can create the object, you can create the columns, like in the SQL database, it's called fields. And likewise, you can configure like who can see what kind of fields or who can see what fields. Can they edit? Can they read? Lots of determination you have to make whenever you are designing your backend Salesforce. You can also like manage the systems automation. Like your company requires like, okay, fine, every week on this day, you want to automate a job that will mark the users active who has last logged in last month. I'm just giving an example. And then who are not active for 7 days last week, you are giving an email alert to them. So this kind of configurations, Salesforce give a lots of flow, workflow, different things to manage this kind of bad jobs. It's actually very user friendly as long as you are understanding the logic, what to do. Then it will be easy to follow. Internal configuration, you have to understand like what kind of configurations, like what do you say, configuration for third-party integration, configuration for your internal users, like is like auth, like how can, for example, you want to integrate like Microsoft Azure for login instead of Salesforce login. You have to make sure that, okay, fine, I want to expire the password like maybe every 2 months and send the user an email like reset a password. There are tons of internal configurations and troubleshooting, like initial investigation, what is causing the problem, and interact with the users, business user. That actually very must. So this is just not reporting or dashboard or just not talking, but beyond that, you have to understand how the business works and what kind of users you are dealing and explaining. Okay, fine. Likewise, I said there are roles, there are security, there are permissions. Salesforce is a very organized platform. It gives all the security. It gives hierarchy. Like, for example, your managers can see something, and they can definitely see the people like which are under him. So this is like a basic architecture that Salesforce gives very solid interface and solid understanding. The trailhead gives a lots of tutorials, like what they call, how can we configure them. Also, like there are workflows. For example, you want to enter some date of birth, and you don't want to like custom code every time, right? In the validation, in the field, you can say the date of birth cannot be like 10 years or less. This kind of validation, I'm giving an example. Or you want to add something like a deal or lease properties in your field. You can just say the deal property cannot be less than 200. This validation can be easily maintained in the Salesforce. It gives proper documentation how to do this thing. So you don't have to write each and every code in the Salesforce. The admin can do this kind of job. There are record-based view, like for example, for business users, there are cases, right? So there are open cases, there are closed cases, there are maybe in progress cases. So one unit, they want to see only their cases, not all other units cases. So the admin can help create a new list field so that they can only see their open cases based on their teams or units. Okay, so I requested for Bangla too. So basically, admin role হচ্ছে আপনাদের security, create new reporting, and also like educating, like so that they know the Salesforce platform and what kind of configuration they have. Also, like there are some things like reports and dashboard. These are very crucial. এটা আপনার report আপনি custom করতে পারবেন, complicated queries করতে পারবেন, এবং dashboard for each units or separate units. You can do this thing that actually help the business users to see their progress, like where are they. So এটা তাদের জন্য easily find out information like what dashboards are looking for, what reports are looking for, everything. And there are more information like data query, and the data query actually relates or relevant to your objects or table design. So the admin has to have good understanding about the database or object, and based on that, the Salesforce give you query information, like you can do in the SQL query, like select these fields from this field where clause. These are the criteria, right? In Salesforce, you can do the same thing. They call SOQL, and you can do the same thing, like select the field name and then from the table or the object, and then you can add the criteria. So you should have basic understanding of the query, and how can you build the logic in the rows. The next thing, actually, the release update, that actually very important and crucial, and sometimes it's complicated because really Salesforce adding new versions, new updates in their system. It's like archives for everybody. It doesn't like for my company or the other company. They are actually targeting for region based. For example, North America. Okay, that's how the targeting and release updates. So you have to make sure that you understand uh, you understand what you say, what features are coming and what things are impacting. Okay, so that's the thing, and you have to make sure that you are collaborating with DevOps, business analysts, and the quality assurance team. Let's move on to the development. Again, you should understand the logical and the flow, and you should know how to code too. It's just not a low code environment, but sometimes you may have to write something from scratch, or like you have to customize some existing features. Sometimes, like you have to do some out of the box solutions. You should know how to optimize the system, because, for example, you are talking about 1 million of records. You have to make sure that what is the right way to make it more optimized and performance wise, because Salesforce is very strict on the governor limit. It actually a multi-tenant system, so you have to make sure the queries they're doing that impacting is not impacting other users. Okay, you should have the object-oriented programming, HTML, JavaScript, likewise I said, and you should understand the SQL query. And programming is up to date according to the Salesforce release. Also, like you have to know the supporting and the troubleshooting critical issues day-to-day basis. And sometimes you have to take over responsibilities from admin job. Sometimes they need your help, or the business analyst. You may have to give some feedback. So from now on, like the way that Salesforce is adding new features, most companies looking for admins plus development role, because it's not just report or dashboard, but they're looking for more logical changes. So please, even the admin, please prepare yourself for logical understanding. Okay, let's move on to the next one, DevOps. This is a very new and most recent role. Salesforce adding release management for the deployments, and there are a couple of different technologies or tools, different companies they're using. There are Copado, there are what is say the ad-based, agile-based deployments, and there are more Git versioning integration. So the DevOps should have understand on the Git release version, and also like how can you manage all of the things, and you have to incorporate with the developers and the QA too, like what things are impacted and what things are moving to the next environment. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, the architect. I leave this thing for now for Shantipanda, but this is like the top of the position, so you should have a very good knowledge. So Shantipanda, can you please add your contribution here? Thank you.
So basically, Salesforce is a vast architected tool. What you normally do is you go into the system as a developer, as an admin, you are assigned a task and you are told something to do and you just do it. But being an architect, what differs you from a developer is not the knowledge. A developer can do the same thing as an architect can do. But what changes the position is how you think. A developer will think from a developer standpoint, and he would actually get his job done. Okay, so for example, if I click this button, it will go to the login screen, and it will actually allow me to log in. But if you are thinking from an architect level, the same thing. The architect will design the system in such a way that, okay, we have a single sign-on. Do we actually need to go to the vendor login, just like a Salesforce login screen, or we create or build a screen of our own that would let users use a single sign-on username and a password that the company maintains, not that what Salesforce maintains. So in order to do that, you have to configure the same thing on the configurable side of Salesforce, and then link that with the login page, so that it takes the username and password that the company has set for you, not what Salesforce has set for you. So there are quite a few examples how an architect think from a business standpoint and from a technical standpoint. Say there are certain, as Abu Zafar Wahid has said, Salesforce is a multi-tenant architecture. We have certain limitations in Salesforce, which has been defined and governed by Salesforce. And in that case, what happens is if you do not respect those governance limits, it will throw an error in the system. So you have to respect that, and you have to build a system in such a way that it abides the governance limits of Salesforce, because it's a multi-tenant architecture. In order to বাংলা যদি বলা যায় একটা ভাড়া বাড়ি নিয়েছি আমরা, ঠিক আছে? It's a very big building, and there are tenants in each of the buildings. What you have to do is you have to make sure that you don't knock the walls so the other person gets bothered. And also you have to maintain the data security. For example, everything is in one place. How would the system know this is my thing and this is Abu Zafar Bhai's thing? So Abu Zafar Bhai's company might be using the same server as my company is using, and both the data is stored in the same place, like in the same room. How would Salesforce know which one to pull? So when my company pulls information from Salesforce servers, it only shows my information. If Abu Zafar Bhai's company pulls information from the same room, it will only show his information, not mine, because that will be a data breach. So these are certain uh, thought process that an architect will run through before even designing a system.
Okay, thank you, Shantavar bhai. So basically, the architecture you're saying, like, this is a very complicated design system. You have to understand what things are integrating, and also like the Salesforce platform, and also like what database is in the Salesforce database, or like is integration from third party. Where the data coming from? A lot of things. Also like documentation, like high level meeting on implementation. You have to work with the top level of business, like what things that they're looking for, and also like you have to talk to business analysts, like how they are actually analyzing the system and how the architecturally designing the system. Also, like you have to understand, like whenever it's a large company, as there's a complicated underlying legacy system, for example, mainframe system. So you have to understand those kind of things, like how their business wants the system integrated, where the data is coming from, and also like you have to configure like the sandboxes, like dev boxes, and what is the deployment strategy. For example, the Copado that one person actually commenting, you can integrate those systems, a paid system, or you are actually managing through the Salesforce its own system ecosystem that actually you can manage those changes and to make sure that how they are connected. For example, you have your own company and there's a vendor that are also doing development. So there's two different pipelines. So you have to understand there is the data, whatever we are seeing, they are not actually having some problem. So let's move into the next one. We have some limited time. If you think any question, we can discuss in the QA. Thank you. Okay, so again, like a job, mostly like US based, North America, the most of the job you're seeing here is according to 2024. That's how the projecting is like third most in demand technology. That actually in 2018 now is getting more because the pandemic and the work from home and lots of big companies. Like I can tell about, I work for government New York City agencies. I know about six agencies. They have they chose actually Salesforce for their platform, and some other companies they are choosing Microsoft Dynamics. So this is a big prospects. Like soon, you will see more companies, big companies like Coca-Cola, T-Mobile. There are tons of companies. They have Salesforce as their platform, and actually you'll see more. Let's see how about job. Please don't ask me about the laid off or any kind of things. That actually post pandemic, a lot of things. So new jobs are coming. Trust me. Even last 6 years, I couldn't find right people to the development and other things. That unfortunate. That's the other reason like trigger me because I work with lots of Bangladeshi programmers. They are actually 10 times 20 so better than me. So I know that there are talents, but maybe the information they don't know about Salesforce. Lots of people just think, oh, it's a Salesforce, marketing, it's a sales or reporting. No, they are developing things too. It's a very highly optimized and advanced platform for developers. You don't have to worry about your server. You don't have to worry about 24/7 hours of service from your network server or anybody. This is Salesforce will give us like on their service. Okay, and the job growth you see here 2.7x. So if you are the person like who is looking into, get in, and also like maybe the offshoring. Who knows? Let's go to the next slide. So first thing first, everybody's talking about certification. So my apology, I'm not a very certification person. I don't have any certification. That's the weakness that I have. I'm a person like just do it person. Like anything comes, I can do. But I'm focused on getting certification because most of the companies they are looking for certification. Who knows if I had like a couple of certification, maybe I would land in a different companies, not New York City agencies. There's opportunities for you. So take the certification. Administration, that's the first step to get certification. And whenever you feel comfortable, get some app platform app developer certification. That actually mostly for developer. But if you're admin, feel free to take it. There are other certifications. These first and the fourth, these are very required certification to land a job. And there are advanced certification too, advanced administrator, business analyst. And these are the key areas. Like if you go deep dive, like advanced certification, these are the best place to move forward. So look into this thing. I'll share the slide and the links as well, where you can see where you can get the certification and what they are related to. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Architecture. I'm leaving this thing to Shandip Banda. He already talked about this thing. This is the top of the role. So I'm targeting this, what is it? This session is most targeted for beginner, intermediate, so admin and development role. And if you're somebody like who has Salesforce architecture, get understanding how things are involved. I'll transfer it to Shandip Banda soon. Before that, let's talk about the job, Salesforce job. You have to understand Salesforce. Like, do you really get into the Salesforce? Like, if you want to switch, do you think like you're not happy with the current job, or do you think you can move further, like advanced career? Okay, fine, but you have to understand what is Salesforce and what things you can do. Then you can switch to technologies. If you're a fresher, make sure that you have the trailhead, all of the things, and you have basic understanding, and get a certification for trailhead and do some projects trailhead and lots of projects. It will give you hands-on experience. You don't have to rely on the resume that okay, I did this and that. But whenever you do like real kind of things, it actually give you the boost. You start training in the trailhead. That Shandipanda and I'm also telling you, trailhead is like the perfect platform for learning the Salesforce environment. If you if you underestimate this platform, I think Salesforce is not your place. This will give you everything. I'm telling you everything that you need for your learning. I will share most links for learning, paid version, unpaid, or free. Look into this thing. Dive into community. There are Salesforce forum. There are Salesforce community exchange. They talk about a lot of things. First, get to the trailer, then get to the community. And certificate, as I talked earlier, Salesforce experience, supervisors, real world projects that I talk, but get the certification and then a trailhead, it will help you. And applying jobs, whenever you have stock exchange, you have trailhead accounts, there are options to make your profile visible for recruiters and agencies. So this is the learning path. I actually share the slide after this, and the group admin will take care of this thing. Trailhead must, and I share two admin and dev beginners role. And there are some blogs. So there are a lot of other blogs. I don't want to say these or that, but my experience, the fourth one I started, and this guy's very nice and helped me clear a lot of ideas about Salesforce development. I bought one or two courses from Pluralsight, and there are tons of training at Udemy. They are like $15 about us, not too expensive. So get it. And there are classes too, paid classes. They are very expensive. Like uh, I don't want to tell about the prices, but it's very expensive. So let's get into the sources that I am giving you. We'll talk about more. So Shantipanda, is your
Thank you, Alvay. So let's talk about how we can build a system for you. The first of all, we need to understand that Salesforce is a multi-layered, multi-tenant architecture. Okay, it has metadata involved. We'll come to that, what that is. Let's not worry about that. And then the API integration, as Abu Zafar Wahid was discussing a while ago. First, anything we do is for the customer. The customer don't need to know what's going on behind the scene. So we have to think from a customer standpoint. We need to build a system that is scalable. So if something comes up in future, customer says, no, we need this, we should be able to handle that. The system should be able to handle that. Functionally sound. So business will give us a business process. I want my business to work like this. How do you want to design it is your problem. But I don't want any bugs or any errors in my system when I'm using it. So functionally, the business should be good. Responsible. The system should be responsible enough to be, say, for example, the uptime of the system, up and running ability of the system. All these things need to be in place. And then, of course, nobody buys a dark shaded system. It has to be colorful. It has to be user friendly. It has to be nice. So the beauty, and that's when the customization comes into picture. The Salesforce provides the basic structures of how you can design a system. Of course, what Salesforce provides is enough to run a business, but it's not enough to tell that, okay, we have a system, can you join our system? No, it has to be customizable, and that's where the beauty lies. Now, coming back to the core architecture of Salesforce, I would say it's a multi-tenant architecture, as I said. I mean, to be speaking Bengali, like, আপনি কক্সেস বাজারে 2 কাঠা জমি নিয়ে যা খুশি তাই করতে পারেন না। You have to maintain the integrity of the society. You have to maintain the law as governed by the government. So the same thing with Salesforce. You're renting a space in Salesforce. You cannot do whatever you want. The code has to be linear. The code has to be up to the mark. So whenever you push the code, Salesforce has a logical operations team who actually checks whether your code is good enough to go into production. You cannot just move any code into production. And of course, having said that, the multi-tenant architecture also takes care of the data sharing system. You cannot put data into the system without any sharing rules. It has to be shared in the right way so that only your organization is able to see it, not anybody else. And I would say multi-tenant architecture mostly takes care of if you can go to the next slide, we have a diagram here that actually shows that, okay, it's a software as a service system. We have logged into a cloud software into Salesforce. Okay, these 3 at the bottom are the users, and this is the client database, and this is the shared database. So basically what's happening here is we are actually getting the data from the client database, and we are actually putting into the shared database. So when we are actually putting the information into the shared database, we just make sure that the sharing rules, how we are sharing the data to these 3 users at the bottom. Like, these 3 users might not have the same capabilities. One might be a director, and one might be just a sales guy who is just, so sales guy doesn't need to see how much transaction is happening every year. So this is where data security comes into picture, whereas the sales user will only see the data that he is supposed to, whereas the director will have access to all the data. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is the metadata architecture. I call it a metadata development model. What happens here is whenever you log into a system, say, for example, you're putting your first name, last name on Facebook. First name Sandipan, last name Ghosh. And I just clicked on save. The data gets saved in the server. Now, what is Sandipan? Sandipan and Ghosh, these are data. Now, if you see a little bit on the left, there is something called first name or the last name. ওইগুলো তো কোথাও একটা সেভ আছে সার্ভারে, তো সেগুলোকে বলে data of the data that is supporting the data, which is called metadata. It's basically nothing. If you have ever, if you're from the IT background, you can relate it. It's like database table. So first name, last name. First name এর জায়গায় আমরা যতগুলো ফার্স্ট নেম দেওয়ার ইচ্ছা দিতে পারি, লাস্ট নেমের জায়গায় যতগুলো লাস্ট নেম দেওয়ার ইচ্ছা দিতে পারি. That's the metadata architecture. And the reason we support metadata architecture model is because it is so much easier. It's multi-tenant architecture can support করে, and at the same time it has it allows us to do the sharing rules. It's a metadata driven model, and that you can create applications and you can actually share with other people. We have an app exchange. You can upload into an app exchange. So it's a metadata driven model, I would say. Next slide, please. API integration is nothing but, for example, if you want to go beyond the line, say, for example, when you have to sync the data between 2 systems, like one is Salesforce, the other is, say, SAP. We are having a transaction in SAP, whereas the front end is Salesforce. You are putting the credit card information, your credit card details into the Salesforce. Salesforce sends the information back to SAP where the transactions occur. And then once the transaction is complete, SAP sends the information back to Salesforce saying, hey, my transaction is complete. Now you can show the customer that your transaction is successful. So Salesforce captures that information and shows in the front end, hey, your transaction is successful. This back and forth information is shared between 2 systems, and how it is integrated is through APIs. So Salesforce actually shares quite a bit when it comes to the API integration. You also have third-party middlewares like Informatica and other tools to connect 2 systems and which we can definitely discuss. If you have any questions, feel free to post it on Facebook, and we would love to answer you. Next slide, please.
Shandipada, I think we adjust the slide, but
Okay.
feel free to add something. I think I don't have to say much about this thing. So get your Trailhead sign up account. We'll share the link how to create the Trailheads. You know, uh, sh- uh, Sharad bhai, can you please share the slide? I think I missed something from the email. Maybe there is something else that I don't see. I will stop sharing. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Just a second. Okay. Can you guys see? Can you guys see the slide?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think these are the two slides, right? The first slide is for Abu Wahid Bhai and his Trailhead account link. I believe this is important so that কেউ যদি Trailblazer basically account করে আর it kind of gives an idea if you follow the right kind of people on what kind of badges they're earning and what kind of points they're earning, or what kind of courses you need to do. I guess this is basically that information, if I understand correctly, right?
That is correct. So basically, every time you successfully complete a course, it gets added to your profile. And
Yes,
if
great.
you're, for example, if you're appearing for Salesforce administration certification, that also gets added to your profile. So basically, and when somebody wants, so it's like a LinkedIn of Salesforce, I would say.
Yes.
Got it.
But it's all connected. Sorry to interrupt. And also, like, these are free courses that will show you, like, you see, like, the badges or the points. These are actually based on, like, what courses you actually finished. These are free courses in the Trailhead. So that's why I'm encouraging everybody, get in the Trailhead. That is the right place to start the Salesforce. Go ahead.
তো আমি যদি ঠিকমতো আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড করে থাকি, সো কেউ যদি সেলসফোর্সে একটা ক্যারিয়ার স্টার্ট করতে চায় and they're doing their training, ট্রেলব্লেজার্সে গিয়ে তাদের একটা অ্যাকাউন্ট করা এবং ওখানে তারা এই ধরনের পয়েন্টস এবং ব্যাজেস আর্ন করা by doing different kind of small exercises, etc. It's sort of building up their resume in order to market themselves. So a Trailblazer account তাদের strong resume একটা skill হিসাবে কাজে দিবে to get into the job market. Is it correct in understanding?
That is correct. কারণ আমি যখনই অ্যাপ্লাই করি কোনো জবে বা ইনফ্যাক্ট in the past করেছি, they always ask for your Salesforce Trailhead link instead of your LinkedIn link.
Okay, so this is more important than LinkedIn account when it comes to the world of Salesforce and its job, right? So it's highly recommended.
LinkedIn is great, Saraf. It has its own importance, but if you are actually hiring someone, you also would look for, okay, দেখি কি মানুষটা কি certifications নিয়েছে বা কি Trailhead complete করেছে, and if
Got
that
it.
is actually supporting our job roles or not. So that's where it comes into picture.
Got it. So yeah, all right. That makes sense. So I guess we are very close to our timeline. Usually we target for 1 hour. So minute বাকি আছে, and sometimes আমাদের session যদি interesting enough হয় আমরা একটু extend করি, because at the end of the day it's a weekend, so we do like to spare a few extra minutes if we have the right sort of information and things that people can benefit from. Given that, Amadir, actually, I see two questions that people ask. I will basically bring on board. So maybe one of you can decide who wants to answer. This is from, এখানে আমরা যখন Trailblazer ইউজ করি sometimes নামটা আসে না, মোহাম্মদ বিপ্লব। বিপ্লব ভাই এই কোয়েশ্চেনটা জিজ্ঞেস করেছেন। Who wants to go for the answer here?
আমি যেতে পারি because আমার কোপাডোর ব্যাপারে recent experience আছে. So Copado is a paid version, and license fee actually a lot. Not all companies they are going to Copado, but if they are well-established company and they really need lots of development environments, developers environments. Copado is one of the good tools for deployments for DevOps. And besides the Copado, Salesforce actually trying to add their own tool for deployments. The previous classic change, what's say, deployments actually very outdated, and there is no versioning system. Anybody can actually override other code. So I don't want to say like Copado is the one, just this, but there are more tools uh, uh, actually taking the place for deployments, and DevOps position actually one of the demanding position besides that admin. Shandipan bhai, please add something that I'm missing.
আমি কোপাডোর DevOps stack to দেখেছিলাম, and it was amazing. But primarily I have used recently Copado acquired a company, and নামটা ভুলে যাচ্ছি, but their deployment tool.
Jenkins.
No, deployment tool একটা I just
And-
forgot the name.
Okay.
But
Yes.
it was wonderful. Like normally what Salesforce happens is once you deploy it, you cannot replicate it, or you cannot compare which one is new and which one is updated metadata in Salesforce. Whereas on Copado, if you give access to your Salesforce org through Copado, that particular tool, the deployment tool of Copado helps you to replicate and deploy in multiple instances. Say, for example, you can only deploy from a sandbox to a production, right, in your own org. But with the help of Copado, you can use from sandbox of one organization to a sandbox of another organization that are never linked.
Yes.
That's a good part.
Okay, we'd like to move on to the next question. Basically, I was asked this question offline, so that's why I posted it on the live section there. So this question is not from me, by the way. So it's from Yasin Bhai, and the question is about some experiences with Salesforce as a backend. Abu Zafar Bhai, I think you were interacting with him. Do you want to go ahead and answer again around this?
Yeah, of course. So I'm taking my current agency, NICER's retirement system. We have actually mainframe backend data. And what we do actually keep the data in the SQL database. And the data that we have in the Salesforce, like most like 90% coming from the SQL database. And we have a Java team there. They're actually creating the web services, multiple, and they are actually different store procedure or different data queries. They're returning as like a JSON. It depends like how you're architecturing. So our web service, they're returning as a JSON, and in the front end, we're showing the JSON as a formatted data, and whenever they're entering data, updating or creating, we are sending those data through the web service to the Java team so that they can update those related tables and other informations on the fly. So that's how the real time you can connect to the SQL database. And there are some actually paid tools. Actually, I cannot tell like what are the tools name, but there are some tools like they are giving the backend configuration and then help getting data, updating data or creating data. I think Shandipan can add something more here about some additional enterprise developed tools.
When it comes to tools, I would say if you want to try out, if your company wants to try out, there are tools like Informatica or MuleSoft that you can use. You do not, and if your SQL query doesn't support something to bring the data from one place to another, and if you want it in real time or as much as possible, or a batch that you want to run on a nightly feed to update the system, you can use Informatica, you can use MuleSoft. These are middleware tools. Or if you want to try out, I recently tried out like last week. It's called Zapier. Pretty basic software. It's not that famous, but Zapier does give you the advantage of integrating. I integrated between Salesforce and Firebase.
Okay, I like to add one thing. There is another tool like Tabular or something that also like gives like connecting not only Salesforce but also like SQL, and you're creating the reports and dashboard. These are all paid version, I believe. You're muted, Shandibanda.
Zapier is not a paid version; it's a free version. You can actually try out. It's amazing. And then you can also try out with another one, and it has everything under the sun. It's called Tray.io. It has everything under the sun. These are some of the middlewares that you can, get your hands on and just try out. It will be either on a trial version or on a developer version, and you can connect your Salesforce development org, which is of course free, and Firebase is also free. So why not just give it a try and see how it goes?
Awesome. So I guess we have reached our time. Sorry to be such a strict timekeeper, but again, at the same time, it's been a great pleasure talking to you guys. And I believe, this is just a start. It's a big world out there of Salesforce. I mean, I do have a little bit of idea, I would say, because sometimes me and Sandeepan, we discuss around, his work life once in a while. So it's a big world out there. You need to achieve a lot of certifications, but then everything starts with somewhere. And given that Abu Zafar Bhai and Sandeepan, I believe you guys have agreed to keep an open channel for anyone in the group who might have any questions around the subject, and anything you can help. And serving the community is what we do here. Secondly, after the end of this event, I will share a separate post which will include these slides. So if anyone wants to basically, go ahead and basically utilize that. So thank you everyone again for your time. Thank you Abu Zafar Bhai and Sandeepan for your valuable time spending on a weekend. Both of you have a new young children. It's tough to bring out some time to do such an event.
Oh, my pleasure, Sheila. I really enjoyed this show.
Yep, thank you. Thanks for having us. And I really we feel proud that we're trying to help somebody. If somebody is getting help, I think that's the sweetest thing ever we have.
That's the whole idea here. That's what we are here for, all of us together. Thank you. Have a good rest of the weekend, everyone.
Thanks.